I do want to say good morning and welcome to everyone here. My name is Jocelyn Scudder and I'm the Executive Director of the Arts Council for Park City and Summit County. And so we are an independent nonprofit local arts agency organization here in Park City and Summit County. And our mission is to serve our arts and culture community by driving creative programming, providing valuable resources, and cultivating connections. So we really do envision a community where arts and culture is critical, where creatives thrive, and where all people can connect through arts and culture. So we have been doing a lot of advocacy work over the past many years, and so this program today, our community convening, is part of a quarterly series that we produce as an arts council. And really what it is a deliverable, and it's a program that has sprouted out of our Project ABC cultural plan for Summit County that we produced back in 2018. It's a plan that really essentially is a roadmap that helps us look towards the future for what we want for arts and culture development and growth in Summit County. And as the plan has a lot of specific community priorities and some specific deliverables in the plan, our role as an arts council is to ensure that this plan doesn't sit on a shelf and get dusty. So this is one of the ways that we implement the plan, is we get the community together to talk about some of these community priorities that are absolutely still relevant today. So really quickly, I do want to do some quick housekeeping. I know many of us are familiar with Zoom, but I think it is important to just mention that this meeting is being recorded, and we will be putting this video on our YouTube channel and then on our website. So if you'd like to share post-meeting, you will have that capacity. There is also closed captioning available, and that is located at the bottom of your screen. You should be able to see a CC button, live transcript, and also I have the closed captioning on, so all of the closed captioning will be recorded and available in the video recording. We acknowledge that this is not a webinar, and that was intentional, although it can cause a little bit of messiness sometimes, but these are meant to be organic meetings. Normally when we host these in person, they're meant to be collaborative. We want the community to get involved. So, but what we will ask for the time being, we do have 4 key speakers. So if you're not a speaker, we will ask you to just keep yourself muted, as well as maybe keep your camera off. Not required. If you want to be in it, you're welcome to. But we did keep it intentionally as this kind of more meeting format, because we want community participation, and that will take place towards the end of the presentation. So 4 presentations today. We're looking to probably end around 11 a.m. We may end early if we need, but that's really our target. And if you'd like to ask questions, we are going to keep the agenda very tight and have each presenter go one after the other. And then right around 10 a.m., we're going to be able to shift over to a roundtable discussion with our panelists, where we're going to be asking questions. That is going to be your cue as community members to either use the raise hand feature, which you'll find in your reactions, depending on your Zoom setup. At the bottom of your screen, we'll ask you to raise your hand and we'll call on you. Or you can just put something in the chat and we'll get to it. You feel free to put things in the chat as they come. So I think that is, oh, and then another thing that's helpful but is optional, if you want to just change your name on the participant list, if you hover over your name and you press more, you're able to change your name and just put your first and last name so we know who's here. If you have an organization affiliation, that's helpful. But otherwise, we're so happy that you are all here today. And I think right now I'm going to pitch it to Jake McIntyre, who is my colleague and part of the Arts Council team as a consultant. He's been working with us since 2017, and he is going to do some quick intros. Oh, and actually, and Jake, can you go over a little bit of the agenda? I think I forgot to do that.
Yeah, no problem. So hi, everybody. I'm Jake McIntyre. I'm just going to hurry and intro the topic here, and then we're going to get to our speakers as quickly as we can. So the way that the flow is going to work is we'll have Randy Cohen, who's the Vice President of Research for Americans for the Arts, present first, followed by Crystal Young-Otterstrom, the Executive Director of the Utah Cultural Alliance, followed by Vicki Varela, Managing Director of Utah Office of Tourism, and then followed by Jennifer Wesselhoff, the new president and CEO of Park City Chamber and Visitors Bureau. So that's kind of our flow for some intro and quick presentations. And then, as Jocelyn said, we'll shift to roundtable where we can get a little more into the meaty conversation. But before we pass off to Randy, I just wanted to set a little bit of context for why we're having this particular conversation about sustainable tourism through arts and culture. So we always make sure these community convenings are tied specifically to collective priorities and strategic recommendations from the Project ABC plan. If you have no idea what I'm talking about with that, you can find the project website, which is Project ABC and then SC for Summit County.com, and everything's there. But there are 7 collective priorities from that plan. And of those 7 priorities, arts and culture tourism pretty directly connects to actually 5 of those 7. Data, funding, governance and policy, faces, which is organizations and artists, people essentially, and then programming. So this is something that really is wide reaching through our cultural plan, and is a really important conversation Jocelyn and I have been looking forward to having for a long time. So we're thrilled to have our group of speakers here with us today. And then I just want to quickly give a kind of a brief definition, I guess, of what sustainable tourism means to me. And each of the speakers will be talking about that a little bit from their perspective as well. But for me, sustainable tourism is really about tourism that builds community, tourism that is rooted in funneling dollars to local businesses, tourism that is rooted in supporting local quality of life, to building value and uplifting our local communities, that is economically and socially responsible. Tourism can be something that can be very taxing on a community. And I think as that has happened in more and more communities around the world, more places are being a little more thoughtful and strategic about how can tourism really build and sustain local culture, local economy, and be something that builds rather than detracts. And you know, we see arts and culture as this incredibly powerful mechanism and tool for building that type of tourism in conjunction with other ways of thinking strategically about that. So that's really kind of the nexus for where we're coming from and why we're wanting to have this conversation through this particular lens. But I will take no more of the time, and I will pass off to Randy Cohen from Americans for the Arts, unless Jocelyn, you have anything else.
Nope, that's great, Randy. Welcome. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks, Jocelyn. Thanks, Jake. And great to be with you all. Only wish I was actually with you all, and we're all in person back, you know, been to the community, the city, the area a number of times. Beautiful. So it was a pleasure. And it's great to be working with a truly extraordinary arts council of Park City. And this kind of work is so important. Other people across the country are having these conversations and thinking about it, but not everybody. And so it's a very leading edge, important conversation. I love how engaged the community is with it. So important work. I love it. I'm going to jump right to share screen and we'll just get right to it. Jake, I appreciated how you were defining sustainable tourism there, and the arts, culture, boy, right at the core of that. And you know, I mean, I think of really healthy arts and culture community, vibrant arts community, and tourism is one of the many benefits that extends from that. You know, a vibrant arts community, it's building socially, economically, you know, better education, better healthcare. The arts really do touch all different areas of our society. So I'm going to focus a little bit more on the tourism and the economic aspect of it. It seems like somebody might need to hit their...
No, I'm free. Sorry, my thing was marked as away because I was doing...
No, it's actually, it was red, so I'm like, I don't know if she's going to be free or not. So.
So folks can hit their mute. I think we're catching somebody's conversation before we hear anything too interesting. Moving ahead, you know, the great thing is Americans value the arts and a lot of different aspects of the arts as well. Every couple of years I do the largest national public opinion survey of the arts out there. And no surprise, 90% of the public says, yeah, the arts are important to our quality of life. I'm always, you know, sort of impressed, though, that 86% in this most recent survey say arts institutions are also important to local businesses, to the local economy. So the public gets the many benefits that come with the arts. And there's incredible data about the power of the arts, economically speaking, specifically. The Department of Commerce, Bureau of Economic Analysis, every year does a big research study. It's called the Arts and Cultural Production Satellite Account. And it essentially looks at all the arts, you know, I mean, they just take a big trash can of the economy, dump it on a table, pull out every arts receipt, whether it's nonprofit, commercial, Hollywood motion pictures, Broadway, import, export, you know, the university drama department. Nationally, in 2019, this is all pre-pandemic, of course, $919.7 billion industry. So just call it a $920 billion industry. That is 4.3% of the nation's economy. That's a bigger share of GDP than agriculture, than tourism, than transportation. Arts are a huge industry in this country. And what's great, the last couple of years now, they've started to drill down to state level data. And you can see those numbers on the right there in Utah, $7.3 billion industry. That's 3.8% of the state's economy and supports over 66,000 jobs. So the arts, cultural benefits, tourism benefits, it's a jobs industry, folks. And research drilling down on all that BEA data shows it's not just some kind of correlation. In fact, the research, the economic research now shows that the arts are truly a driver of job growth. And what that means is as arts jobs grow, all jobs across a state grow. The arts diversify economies and also in rural communities as well. And there's, Department of Agriculture research. The more performing arts organizations there are in rural counties, the more creative economy businesses there are. And so there's all this fascinating and amazing data that show, it's not just that the arts are happening, but they actually are an investment in the economy. Drilling down a little bit to a study that we do every 5 years, looking at the nonprofit arts and culture sector, the economic impact of that, and their audiences. That is event-related spending. Think about the last time you went to a performance. You probably drove, maybe had to pay for parking, you had dinner, saw the show, maybe went out for dessert or drinks afterwards. You got little ones at home, you come home, double the cost of the evening on babysitting. There's all this economic activity related to that arts event that you're attending. And so we do these big national studies every 5 years, and I'm pretty excited to say Park City and Summit County will be part of the next one. So to quantify that economic activity, to show that the arts provide both cultural benefits and economic benefits right there at a local community level. Our studies, all 50 states, we studied communities as small as 1,400 people, as large as 4 million. We had 341 communities in this last study. Just to give you an idea, big picture, nationally, nonprofit arts and culture industry, $166.3 billion industry. And again, those are nonprofit arts and cultural organizations. And you can see that figure on the left, spending by the organizations. Arts organizations are businesses. They employ people locally. They purchase goods and services from other businesses in the community. Members of the Chamber of Commerce, part of the CVB, driving tourism. And then there's all that audience spending you can see there nationally, about $102.5 billion. But this is where it gets really interesting. We did 212,000 audience surveys in this last study, a ridiculous oversample by any measure. We found the typical attendee to an arts event spends $31.47 per person per event, not even including the cost of admission. And you can see here on the pie chart, about half of that's on food and, local transportation. There's my parking. So you might be looking at lodging. Wow, can you still get a room for $4.48? Would you want it if you could get it? No. Remember, not everybody has a lodging cost. So that's these are averages. So other is always interesting. I was just speaking with our friends up in Wisconsin, where one of the audience surveys, a farmer paid somebody $60 to milk his cows so he could go to the theater that night. Isn't that great? People are doing what it takes to get to the arts, you know. Of course, I have to change the survey next time and add dairy, I guess. But so lots of economic activity. And each of these studies, each of these findings are unique to the communities that are studied. Now, we also asked those folks another question. Now here we're starting to connect it to tourism. That is, we asked them for their zip code, because we want to find out, do they live in the county in which the arts event's taking place? Are they from outside the county? Are they local or are they non-local? 34% of attendees cross a county line to attend that arts event. Do they spend differently? Yeah, you bet they do. Look at those numbers. Non-local attendees, $47.57 per person, not including admission. More on transportation, more on meals, lodging, you know, places you'd expect to see those numbers. But we asked them yet another question, because we're just that annoying, let's face it. And that is, why are you here? You know, we're glad you're here. Thank you for coming. Are you here on business? Are you here visiting friends or family? 69% of those non-local attendees said, we came specifically for this arts event. So you can see the pulling power that the arts have. Not only that, and this is where it starts to get to sustainable tourism for a community, we asked the local folks kind of a similar question. Let's say this arts event wasn't taking place. Would you have stayed home, done something else? 41% said, oh, we traveled to a different community to attend a similar kind of arts event. So not only are the arts drawing people to the community, they're keeping our neighbors and their hard-won discretionary dollars right here in town. Dollars going to local merchants, to local businesses. 70% of the nation's economy is consumer spending. And boy, as we all try to find our way out of this pandemic, you know, the arts are going to be more important than ever, because people are ready to come back as arts organizations open. You know, just the research is really clear. You know, folks are ready to return. That's getting people out of their homes and providing valuable commerce to local businesses. Businesses that we as residents frequent anyway. There's a lot of really great data that show how cultural travelers differ from typical travelers. There's a lot here, but bottom line, they spend more, they stay longer, more likely to stay in a hotel or a bed and breakfast, more likely to spend $1,000. These are great kinds of tourists to capture in your community. And we'll get more into, you know, sustainable tourism, but actually one of the things I did want to mention in the previous piece, if you look at the research, domestic travelers, international travelers, travelers are looking for authentic cultural experiences when they travel. You know, when they go someplace, what makes Park City, what's the story of Park City? What do people who live in Park City or in Summit County do? You know, where do they enjoy eating? You know, and it might be Native communities and, you know, the history, the heritage. Folks are looking for that kind of experience. And so I think, as Jake was saying, you know, how can we sustainably grow that? You know, you don't want to kill the goose that's laying the golden egg, right? And so cultural tourism can be a really effective way to provide value, sustained investment in these organizations. And at the same time, creating cultural opportunities for people who do live in the community. So tourists are helping to support our arts and culture organizations. And by the way, when I say arts and culture, I'm big umbrella, you know, it's all of it, you know, and so last piece, again, is just sort of thinking about, you know, how the arts are building healthier communities. National Public Opinion Survey, again, 72% of the American public says the arts unify our communities, regardless of age, race, or ethnicity. 73%, the arts help me understand other cultures in my community. And what's great and amazing is those findings cut across all socioeconomic strata. It's not an urban thing. It's not an affluence thing. You know, so arts and culture really gets to our own personal stories, our personal experiences. So I'll stop there, and I'll look forward to the conversation afterwards. Thank you. And let me me stop the share. That's my email. Get a snapshot of it and email me any questions you folks have.
Thank you so much, Randy. And we'll share it out. And I really appreciate you sharing this kind of zoomed out, having this national perspective on the values of the arts, but specifically from this tourism lens. And this was intentional, right? So now we're going to zoom in a little bit and we're going to think about Utah. And that's where we have Crystal Young-Otterstrom with us, who is the executive director of Utah Culture Alliance. And she's going to share some of her insights as related to sustainable tourism, as well as arts and culture tourism. And just, I noticed we had some late joiners. So just know that we are going to go through these presentations. Each presenter has about 10 to 15 minutes. And then, so if you have questions, put them in the chat. Right around 10 o'clock, we're going to start doing community discussion and roundtable. Okay, so we'll make sure we get to those discussion points later. But anyways, other than that, Crystal, please take it away. We're so happy you're here.
All right, hi everybody. I'm going to share my screen here. Let's see. How's that? Can you guys see my screen? Excellent. Let me get my notes back up. There we go. All right. I think I know all of you, but just in case I don't, Crystal Young-Otterstrom Utah Cultural Alliance, as Jocelyn mentioned, we're the industry association for arts, culture, humanities, entertainment, museums, and film. Seems like a pretty big umbrella. But in my experience of doing this job over the last 11 years, when I'm working with stakeholders across the sector, it's all part of what makes Utah a wonderful place to live, work, and play. It really is about protecting our way of life and promoting our quality of life here in Utah. And so it really makes sense to have that umbrella together, and stakeholders really see it all together. So I'm really excited for this topic, and thank you to Jocelyn, Jake, and everybody at Park City Summit County Arts Council. And it's such an honor to share this platform today with Randy and our friends at Utah Office of Tourism and Visit Park City, because it's in Summit County, not just Park City. Because it's really part of the zeitgeist of what we've been talking about as a cultural industry of late. And I really want to thank our friends at Office of Tourism, who have been such wonderful partners, Office of Tourism and the Tourism Industry Association, as we all think about how can we encourage more sustainable tourism? How can we encourage people to stay longer, spend more locally? We don't want them to just go from the mountains to their hotel at night. We want them to come into town and see a show and spend money. And so we've really valued this partnership we've been developing over the last several years. And when Jocelyn and Jake reached out, I said, well, it's so funny because we're intending to be talking about tourism a lot as an industry over the next year, because we really want to make sure that all of the various businesses, nonprofit and for-profit in this industry are really plugged into the wonderful resources that tourism already provides for all of us to bring more visitors into your venues, into your facilities, into your museums, into your shows, into your classes, your workshops, etc. There's already a lot of wonderful resources out there that we think our industry isn't quite fully utilizing, and I'll talk through some of them today. And I'm sure our partners at Office of Tourism will talk about it some more. And then we also want to keep communicating why this matters, why this value matters. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about UCA, and I'm going to be spouting some numbers at y'all too, because as you'll see when we talk about our purpose, one of our roles as an industry association is to communicate the value that this industry brings. And of course, as you and I all know, the true magic of this industry is not the numbers. It's not the money we bring back into the economy. It's not the visitors we attract. It's not even the academic benefits that kids see. It's not even the health benefits that we all see from this industry. The real value is that magic, that connection, that human experience that we understand when we are part of that live experience. And there is no data, no words that can really express the importance of that value, but we try our best. But really the best way to experience that magic is to experience it live. And I will say that one of the silver linings of this pandemic is when that experience was taken away from all of us, we suddenly understand how important it is to our life, to our day-to-day living, to our human experience. And really all I have to do these days is say, didn't you miss this? Doesn't this have value to you? And elected officials statewide, kudos to them, since this is a very culture-friendly state. They say, absolutely, we've missed this. Absolutely, this brings value to our communities. So I'm going to share some numbers as well, a little different from Randy's for a couple reasons. One, the industry and occupation codes that we pull from Bureau of Labor Statistics, Department of Workforce Services here locally, and then Bureau of Economic Analysis is a little bit broader because we have a broader umbrella than just pure arts here. And we work with Kim Gardner Policy Institute on authoring this State of UT Culture report. And so let me kind of go through here. This is all of our co-publishers on the 2020 report. We released this during the session this year with Speaker Wilson and President Adams speaking at the release and sharing some really lovely stories about why they value arts and culture. Speaker Wilson talked about how the symphony was the date with his wife where she knew she was the one. It was so sweet. And so you can see here, we pull from 97 industry codes, 85 occupation codes. We get a lot of that through West Staff's Creative Vitality Suite, but as well as a number of other data sources as well. And thank you to all of our sponsors. Some of you guys will see yourselves there who help support this report. So again, we're the industry association. We have a C3 and C4. Our C3 is where we do this data work and research as well as career development for all of y'all. And then the C4 is where we do the advocacy work. So this is my favorite stat of all the stats. And if you forget all other stats that I tell you today, this is the one that I think is the most important, that Utah is #1 in the country for creating art per capita. This is from the National Endowment for the Arts Audience Participation Study. They update it about every 5 years or so. And we're #3 for attending events live per capita. And it's so close, that top 5. We've been in that top 1 spot before. And it's just part of who we are as a state. You know, we all know the story of our LDS pioneers who built a theater before they built any other public structure. We know the stories of our indigenous Utahns putting their literal histories on the walls of our Red Rock, telling their stories through dance and history over time. It's just part of who we are. And I love it when elected officials tell this back to me now, because they do, because it's true. It's who we are as a state. So this is our numbers, 155,551 Utahns. This is from 2018, 4.8 billion in earnings, 7.2 billion added to the state's economy, 4% job growth, which makes Utah #3 in the country for growth of creative jobs. And we've had such a robust economy that we've enjoyed even through this pandemic, thanks to the leadership of our state. So this multiplier effect, Randy talked about this a little bit as well. We commissioned a study from Y2 Analytics this year measuring audience confidence in COVID back in March, and we co-commissioned it with our friends at Department of Cultural and Community Engagement, the new name for Heritage and Arts, as well as Salt Lake County Arts and Culture. And while we were at it, talking about COVID, we also asked them to tell us how much they spend in addition to tickets. And it's pretty high numbers, actually, because a lot of them are in regions that are visiting more often. You know, say if they're from Salt Lake and they're going to Shakespeare Festival, or maybe they want to spend the night in Park City while they go to Sundance, you know, things like that. So it's pretty significant, the numbers that they reported. And our friends at Utah Office of Tourism will go into this in more detail. This is actually from them. This is their data. indicating that 19% of visitors are coming to vacation in Utah for entertainment, historic, and cultural interests. That's pretty exciting. You know, Vicki likes to say how Utah is more blessed than everyone else. God picked favorites, which I totally agree with. And we also, I think, pick favorites with our cultural scene. It's so great. I've lived all over the United States, and I think Utah has something really special here. This is from the Utah Division of Arts and Museums, a social impact study for museums, where they asked museum visitors across the state to kind of say, how did this visit to this museum impact their day-to-day life? And you can see overwhelmingly, they said that it increased their health and well-being, increased intercultural competence, continued education and engagement, and strengthened relationships. And again, that really speaks to how, while we can spout these numbers about value all day, it's really about those intangible things. I just want you guys to remember the COVID-19 impact. In fact, you know, I need to update this slide. We're actually at 88 million in losses, so I apologize for not having the most up-to-date data on that. And while that's significant, and I'm sure you all have felt it, we are in a very different place here in Utah than when I speak to my colleagues across the country. And we're in a very different place because our state made an almost $30 million investment into this industry last year. And not only that, a number of our county and city governments also made a significant investment into this industry with their CARES dollars. And they've already put $9 million this year of the ARPA money into the industry, and we're gonna see more. Don't you guys worry. They care about us. They're looking out for us. So I want to talk just a second about Now Playing in Utah. You guys know this. This is our statewide calendar of everything to see and do. But what I wanted to bring up on this call is while 64.84% of the traffic comes from Utah, 36% is coming from outside of the state. And those top states are California, Colorado, Idaho, Texas, and Nevada. And Colorado had a 110% increase in traffic last year. Texas had a 50% increase. Nevada had a 71% increase. And so we saw, you know, with COVID, I think our nearby states really came and wanted to come and visit more. And so having your events on that site isn't just getting you in front of Utah visitors, it's getting you in front of out-of-state visitors. And you guys may not know this, but this event calendar is actually the source of Visit Utah's calendar, Visit Salt Lake Tribune, and 14 total calendars, mostly other destination marketing organizations, but a few other kind of new sources as well. So when you're putting your stuff there, it's getting out there. I want to thank again some of our DATAFEED partners, like I just talked about. I don't know why we only put 4 logos on there instead of all 14, but I'll have my staff. Oh, here we go. Here's more. Those guys just got an extra shout out. And so briefly, in my last minute of time, I just want to make sure that you all are utilizing some of the tourism resources to market your events that are out there. So Office of Tourism has their co-op marketing program, as well as an extra source of money this year of Forever Mighty. And that deadline is Tuesday, and I hope you'll utilize it. And if you need help with figuring out some of the data, like the hotel stays that you might be contributing to or audience spend, we have resources that can help you fill out those applications, and we really want to see you guys use them. And then also Summit County is really generous with the TRCC and TRT money. That's the transient room tax and tourism. Oh man, I can never remember what all that thing stand for. Tourism, Recreation, Culture, Convention, and Airport Facilities Tax, AKA the restaurant tax. And those are also good sources of being able to promote what you're offering, because you know, we all want to build audience. We all want to bring in more earned revenue into your various businesses. But even more than that, we just want people to experience what you're doing in that magic. So again, thank you so much. Turn the time back to Jocelyn.
This is awesome, and we're so grateful for everything that the Utah Cultural Alliance does and your commitment to the cultural sector here locally in Utah. And I think this is also intentional. It's a perfect segue into Vicki's presentation. So we're so pleased to invite Vicki Varela. She is the Managing Director of the Utah Office of Tourism, and she is here to talk, to continue to kind of talk about this from a statewide perspective. And so, yeah, so feel free to take it off from here, Vicki. And again, for those of you who have questions, we'll just save those for after our presentations, and we're going to get into a roundtable soon. So please take it away, Vicki.
Good morning. Great to be with all of you virtually, and I look forward to being together in person again soon. Can everybody see my screen, my PowerPoint? This has been really inspiring to be part of this discussion. I want to give a shout out to Jocelyn and Jake. They've been so organized in preparing all of us for this, and that you've motivated me to lift my game, because there is so much more that we can do in partnership with all of you. And thanks to Randy for the great context, and it's always great to be team tagging with Crystal, because we have a very shared view of the possibilities. And of course, we both want to attract your attention to our co-op program. So I think the most important context for you to know about the Office of Tourism, if you don't know about our Red Emerald strategic plan, we are a strategy obsessed team at the Office of Tourism. I've never been part of an organization that was more focused on this core strategy. If you're not aware, the Red Emerald is a rare stone that's mined only in Utah, and that's what we want the Utah tourism economy to be. It's a precious, unique to Utah, refined, exquisite offering. And what that means is that it has to work for local communities as much as it works for visitors. And we know that we have pinch points throughout the state. Park City is one, Moab is another one, St. George is another one, where there are constraints created by the tourism economy that is impacting the quality of life for your community. And so under the Red Emerald strategy, we are working hard to distribute visitation, to help people understand the greater complexity of what we have to offer. Crystal highlighted one of the things I always talk about is that Mother Nature played favorites with Utah landscapes. But we also need to show the kind of leadership that all of you were talking about this morning, to highlight the incredible culture and arts that we have in Utah. I think we are on the right path there, but there is so much more that we want to do together. So here are some examples of the way we're starting to tell the story of the arts in Park City. You can see this from our website. If you haven't been to our website, visitutah.com. Your days can easily include art galleries, spa time, boutique browsing, food, and entertainment. And of course, the mountains make the place. But you can see we're trending in this communication toward emphasizing the arts rather than your ski vacation as the core activity. We did an interesting project recently, the Fly Girls of Park City. We've gone deep on telling the story of female, a whole range of female travel activities. And this was one where we actually partnered with a local artist in Park City, Lindsay Larson Meyer. She generated this artwork for us that was used in social media, on our website, to tell the story of the, obviously, the ski history, but it also called attention to the wonderful arts and culture in the area. So key and timely thing that Crystal has headlined for you is that we have a really robust marketing program. It's called the Co-op Marketing Program. We dedicate 20% of our total marketing funds to partner with you on your local priorities. Big shout out to Jennifer, who I think is next on our agenda as your visionary new Park City Chamber Executive Director. If you don't know this, she's kind of a rock star in the tourism industry nationally for the leadership that she showed in Sedona to create a sustainable tourism economy. And so I'm sure Jennifer's application is in process right now. The Park City Chamber always does a major co-op marketing proposal, and they're always among the largest beneficiaries of this program with really innovative approaches to it. I don't know the details because we're right up against our June 30th deadline. So know that you're getting a lot of dollars into your community through the Park City Chamber. You can also apply for these co-op grants if you're a nonprofit and you have a regional marketing strategy. You should absolutely consider applying in addition to whatever Park City Chamber applies for. It will take you a little bit of time, so if you haven't started your application, you should start right now because the deadline is June 30th. We have a person in our office who is motivated to help you secure funding to accomplish your goals. Her contact information is here, Kelly Day. Know that if you are just starting the process right now, Kelly's very time constrained, but also very motivated. So please consider that for this year, or be sure to put it on your calendar for the future. As Crystal highlighted, we have what we call a Forever Mighty Co-op. This is a pilot program. It is an even better match than our regular one-to-one match and co-op, which incidentally the cap on the base program is $275,000. So that, that's a lot of funding that can come into your community. But the Forever Mighty initiative is part of the consumer-facing part of the Red Emerald Strategic Plan. And that's to help people understand a low-impact way of traveling, where they can respect the environment, where they can arrive prepared to have good experiences, where they can leave in the same vehicle that they came in, not an emergency vehicle, where they just engage with the local community, with local businesses, and show respect for the community that they are guests in. So that deadline is also just next week. So take a look at all of that information on our website. I'll put the information in the chat. And then the other way that we have been working with you and where we look forward to engaging even more is in the great storytelling that we do. Our website is our most powerful tool of marketing because all of our social media and all of our broadcast media directs people back to visit utah.com. So Andrew Gilman is the point of contact to work on native content placements, public relations, on website content. And we're just hungry to know more about the great things going on in your community. I will also amplify Crystal's point about Now Playing Utah. That's a really important tool for us. So be sure that you're posting your activities on Now Playing Utah. We get 6 million website visits a year, so it's a way of getting your story out. I look forward to talking more in the discussion, but one other headline, well, two other headlines. One is that we have a remarkable writer that some of you may be familiar with. Ellen Vag-Wiest was historically an arts and culture reporter at the Tribune. She's now a shared employee between our office and the Office of Cultural and Community Engagement, formerly known as the Department of Heritage and Arts. And so Ellen is constantly helping us see opportunities to tell the arts and culture story better. And then the last headline I would provide you, going back to the Red Emerald Strategic Plan, I love the way it was framed up at the beginning by Jake. You know, that really a great sustainable tourism economy is about building community. And I just want to tell you some of the semantics that we use when we talk about the Red Emerald Strategic Plan. Is we talk about a perpetual tourism economy. We use that language much more than we use sustainable tourism economy, because we find that some people in Utah stumble over the word sustainable. They go to, is this just environmental? Is this that? And so people seem to understand better when we talk about a perpetual tourism economy and how that needs to be friendly to the long-term interests of the community. Thank you so much. I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you so much, Vicki. I really like the way you were talking about that perpetual way of speaking about or reframing what sustainable tourism, so that people can really understand some of your goals. And I also want to thank you for your leadership, not only for consistently supporting Summit County and especially the Chamber Bureau, but I'm really, I mean, the Forever Mighty grant, I've been looking a little bit more into that and utilizing some funding dollars from your organization to incentivize sustainable tourism. I think that's a wonderful way to kind of move the needle on this work. And so for those of you listening, go check out some of those grant opportunities that are, again, due at the end of the month. So it might be a little hurried, but it was nice to see that come through as kind of a new pilot grant program that you guys are offering to kind of change the way people are promoting their towns, so that they can continue to focus on community building and focusing on their inner communities while also attracting tourism. So anyways, thank you so much. We will have you stop sharing. And I also appreciate you teeing us up for Jennifer, who I'm so excited to hear from her. And again, so we took it from national with Randy. We had some state leaders talk about how we talk about arts and culture tourism on the state level, as well as sustainable tourism. And now we have Jennifer, our own CEO and president of our Chamber Bureau here in Park City and Summit County. And so thank you so much for being here and giving us your time, Jennifer, and please take it away.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm just thrilled and so grateful for all of the kind words. I think Vicki is too kind to me, and I'm anxious and excited to hit the ground running and really focus on short-term recovery while planting seeds and moving some initiatives forward for sustainable tourism. So I'm really happy to be here today. Thank you so much for the opportunity. What I really wanted to start out as is really kind of rethinking and sharing with the community here and the audience here today about the role that I see our organization playing in destination management and marketing, because it is a shift from our traditional role in the community for the last many, many years. And this is a good graphic of how everything works together holistically related to destination management and marketing. For us, our perspective, it's about raising the destination profile. Obviously, that's something that we've done really well in attracting overnight visitors, but simultaneously also looking at how we can use our influence and use that destination profile to improve the quality of life, to protect our natural and heritage assets and cultural assets, along with creating tourism products and also sustaining signature events. For me, this is a good example of destination management and a holistic approach that I bring to the organization and to the community. You know, responsible tourism is defined in a lot of different ways, and I wanted to share this slide with you today because I think there's just a lot of questions or different definitions of what responsible tourism is. And I brought up just a few here in the next couple of slides to give the audience a greater understanding of how we look at what some may call sustainable tourism, some may call responsible tourism. And for us, it's really about generating greater economic impact for the local people and enhance the well-being of the community, and how visitor needs, industry needs, community needs, and environmental needs all intersect. And it's difficult work. It's not always clear the best path forward, because you're balancing a lot of different needs and desires in the community. Responsible tourism is about environmental conservation, cultural awareness, community involvement and empowerment, and economic vitality. And for me, this is where arts comes into the conversation. And this is why it's important to have this conversation that we're having today. When our organization will start to think about sustainable tourism, it's about these key tenets in the community. It's about inclusive and sustainable economic growth. It's about social inclusiveness, employment, jobs, poverty reduction, diversification of the economy. It's about our resources, whether those are arts and cultural or natural. It's about efficiency, environmental protection. It's about climate change. One of the things that was just so exciting for me in our membership satisfaction survey that we conducted just a few months ago, we asked our members, in addition to all of the short-term issues that we're facing in terms of COVID recovery and COVID regulations, what are the other top issues that are facing you in your business in the next 12 to 18 months? And the top two were recycling and green initiatives, and number two, sustainable tourism. And we define sustainable tourism management in that survey as protecting our environment and our small town character. And that rose to the top for number one issues facing our businesses in the long term. And climate change was also a priority for our members. Cultural values, diversity, heritage, and creating mutual understanding, peace, and security. And it's intriguing and wonderful to hear, from Randy and Crystal's presentation about how the arts help do that. So hopefully you're starting to see how what we're hearing across the country, in Utah, in the state, and then also in our community, how all of this starts to intersect with sustainable tourism. For me, it's really a lot about balance. When you think about those diverse needs in the community, the business needs might be very different than a residential need. And it's trying to create balance and compromise and harmony in the community. From my previous experience, Jocelyn asked me to share a little bit about what we bring to the table. And it's always been about balancing these four pillars: the economy, the quality of our visitor experience, with which generally organizations like ours, we're really good at these two things. This is sort of our mission, our vision has always traditionally been around these two pillars. where we start to grow and morph into more of a management organization, these other two pillars of stewardship of the natural environment and quality of life really start to intersect with the economy and the visitor experience. These are potential plan pillars as we're looking at shifting and adding a management component. It's about using our voice to lead the tourism industry to implement sustainability principles, positioning Park City as a national and international leader in destination stewardship. It's about maintaining and enhancing the elements that make Park City truly a special place to live and work. Of course, it's about the economy, shaping it in a way that ensures long-term sustainability and vibrancy, and then also continuing to provide excellent visitor experiences that not only highlight our sustainability values, but also the things that we all love about Park City so much. And obviously the arts, our culture, and our heritage and history are really important parts about to be authentic to our community. We do great work right now as it relates to the arts. There's some snapshots here from our website, Visit Park City. Under Things to Do, Arts and Culture is the top link. We're featuring all of the great events that are taking place in Park City as it relates to arts and music education, art gallery events, all of the great concerts and performing arts and film and museum and historic tours. So thank you to all of our partners who post their events here on our calendar. It's great free publicity, and it's an incredible resource for visitors and locals alike to figure out just what's happening in Park City at any given time. We also do an incredible amount of work on our website with our blogs. Content is king, and we're always looking for content as it relates to arts and culture. If you're interested in checking that out, just go to visitparkcity.com and click on arts and culture, and you'll see all of the events calendar and the blogs that we produce, one blog a week. And obviously arts and culture is an important topic for us to include in those blog posts. But there's more work to be done, and that's what I'm excited to share with you today, is basically the first step that we'll be taking towards sustainable tourism planning. And that involves inviting the Global Sustainable Tourism Council here to our community. We'll begin this process in July in partnership with the county and the city to develop a comprehensive destination sustainability assessment of Park City. They'll be coming in and they'll be looking at several sets of criteria. This will give us a benchmark of just how sustainable we are in terms of a holistic and integrative approach. There are 4 main objectives included in this Global Sustainable Tourism Council assessment. The first is destination management, just how well are we doing? And a lot of that will fall to our organization. You know, do we have a solid strategy for management? Do we have an effective organization? Do we monitor and plan? Do we track visitor satisfaction? Are there solid plans for safety and security of our visitors when they come? So destination management, significant criteria in that category. The next main objective is all around social and economic well-being. So do we have a good economic monitoring? Do we have diverse career opportunities and opportunity for growth in those industries? What is the community opinion of tourism? What do we do well as a community? What can we improve upon? And what does that opportunity to engage and support and educate the community look like? The third main objective is all around the community and culture. And this is where the arts play an incredible role in destination stewardship. Do we protect our assets, our attractions? Do we have sufficient visitor management as it relates to moving people around the community and protecting our natural and heritage sites? Are we influencing visitor behavior in a positive way? And do we have enough interpretation of our arts and cultural sites to really elevate those community characteristics? The last objective is all around the environment. How well are we protecting our water sources, our water quality, our night skies, our environmental risks, our wildland and wildfire protection, and how are we doing a good job of providing public transit to and accessibility to our community and to our sites? So I'm very excited to embark on this project. You'll hear a lot more in the upcoming weeks and months about this, but truly, this is what it's all about. It's about caring for our community, caring for Park City and Summit County, for our locals, our businesses, our employees, and our visitors in a more meaningful way, which ultimately creates a greater sense of pride in the community. It positions us as a community who really cares about our arts, our heritage, our environment, each other, our nonprofits, our employees. And I'm really anxious to focus on this concept of quality over quantity. And Randy really hit the nail on the head when he was talking about that arts and cultural visitor and how much they spend in our community, and how important they are to having those dollars trickle through our economy, and ultimately really protecting that golden egg and focusing on quality over quantity. So finally, this is really what it's all about. It's about sustainable development, sustainable management, and finding the intersection of the environment, the economy, and the social aspects of a very nurturing community. So I'm excited to lead this process with your help. It's going to be a lot of work ahead. We'll be asking our partners and all of you to engage with us in this process. And good things ahead for Park City, and I'm just proud to be part of it. My contact information's here. If anyone would like to send any questions or information, please do so. I'm looking forward to more conversation.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. And I think we are all very lucky to have you leading the helm here at the Chamber Bureau, and so excited to see how you will foster tourism here, but also from the sustainable lens. And we're excited personally as an Arts Council to work with you more on arts and culture tourism as well. So we're just at about 10 o'clock, and this is really on the part of the agenda where we wanted to move into more of a panel discussion roundtable with our speakers. So we have our panelists. We'll just ask Crystal to join us as well. And so this is a moment, Jake and I do have some questions for the group as it relates to arts and culture, specifically tourism, sustainable tourism, but this is also an opportunity for the community to get involved. So those listening, if these presentations have sparked questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat and we will get to them as we have time. If you're interested in engaging, you're also welcome to use the raise hand feature that's either in your reactions button at the bottom of your screen or underneath the participants list. There should be a raise hand feature depending on your Zoom setup. So if you want to kind of engage and chat, you're welcome to do that as well. We will call on you to do so, and we'll prompt you to unmute yourself and unmute your keep your screen active. So, you know, with this group, again, the way that we curated this, it's important for us, and I keep reinforcing this, that we have this national perspective with the amazing Randy Cohen and data from Americans for the Arts, people on the state level and the people on the local level, all talking about the same topic. And something that I've noticed, at least, because some people may not know, the Arts Council here in Park City and Summit County, as we are this designated local arts agency, one of our core activities, we have 4 core activities as an agency. We lead public art activities, programming, we do advocacy work, and then cultural tourism marketing. A lot of our locals don't see that as much because we do receive restaurant tax grant funding that pushes a lot of our content out beyond the borders of Summit County. But we're really here to help tell the story about how Park City and Summit County is a cultural hub. And it really helps us retain our community identity and sense of place. It helps nurture community. And I know these are words that have come up throughout all of your presentations. And I think specifically with Park City and Summit County, but I think it's popping up everywhere. You know, that's really valuable to community members. We all love where we live, and that's you know, definitely a theme at the city and the county level. So I'm just curious of what your response would be to this, and anyone can answer this, but I'm finding this concept of sustainable tourism becoming increasingly important, especially in the last 5 years or so. And I'm curious of what patterns you're seeing, or maybe why this theme of sustainable tourism specifically is becoming more important. Do any of you have insights into that?
Jocelyn,
Well,
I'm happy to take a stab at that. So I came into the role at the Utah Office of Tourism in 2013. And at that time, we were still trying to build a Utah tourism economy. We had research that showed, and I know this seems incredible now because so much has changed, but when we would show people a picture of our downtown skyline with the temple of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints prominently displayed and the snow-capped mountains, people would respond in these huge surveys. They'd say, "That is so beautiful. I love Denver." When we showed people pictures of Delicate Arch, of the hoodoos in Bryce, people responded, "Oh, those are such stunning photos. I've got to get to the Grand Canyon." So we didn't own nationally or internationally the ways that Mother Nature has played favorites. We just didn't have that brand connect. And so we did a really good job of it, on the Red Rock side of it in particular, with our Mighty Five campaign. And we both take credit and we take responsibility for everything that has created. I think on the ski side, we've continued to build our brand, but it wasn't in as dramatic of a way as the Mighty Five created for the Red Rock country. And so by 2017, we were starting to see the pinch points of people going to those 5 national parks, and I felt that it was critical that we start to distribute demand. I read a book at that time that was that changed everything for me. It's called Overbooked. It's by a woman named Elizabeth Becker, and she documented problems in Europe that were starting to erode all the things that we all love going to Europe for. Because they had, and Venice is an extreme example. Barcelona has also experienced it. Other European communities that have lost their core identity that made them so attractive because of tourism strategy, excess demand, visitation, and so forth. The book highlighted France as a country that has maintained its tourism economy and its quality of life in ways that are inspiring to me, because that's my favorite place to visit as frequently as I can. outside of everything in the West. And so we started to pivot. I think the challenge, and I think others have started to be aware of the kind of leadership that Elizabeth Becker calls for in that book. As Western states, we actually have a group we call Westy Besties. It's the Western States Tourism Policy Council, and we've all experienced this pain to varying degrees. And so I think it's a matter of arresting this problem before it gets totally out of control, so that we can create a perpetual tourism economy.
Thanks, Vicki. I can't believe that was just 2013. I mean, it seems not too long ago, and all of the branding that has come out and the awareness and you know, seeing all of that come forward is pretty remarkable in the time frame that you've discussed. Does anyone else on the panel want to touch on that topic?
Yeah, I'll chime in and reinforce what Vicki's been saying. I think the shift to sustainable tourism has really started with the incredible growth of tourism in the country in the last 5 or 6 years. Starting really in 2016 with the centennial year of our national parks. I know Grand Canyon went from about 2 million visitors a year and increased 2 million visitors a year over the last 3 years or so, and they're were pre-COVID up to over 6 million visitors a year. And I think that our communities, especially where the national parks are located, are generally surrounded by small communities, generally surrounded by a lot of public land. And I think that because of that just growth in tourism and visitation, our communities haven't been able to keep up. The infrastructure hasn't been able to keep up, and our public lands haven't been able to keep up. So it's a matter of sustainable tourism kind of helping us refocus our priorities as it relates to tourism and infrastructure in particular. And we're hearing that here in Park City. You know, I think the concern right now is sort of event fatigue. I've heard that a lot, but in reality, what that really is infrastructure. It's not enough parking. It's not enough public transit. It's not encouraging visitors to use public transit enough to have less of an impact on our quality of life. So I think it really, especially in smaller communities, we are the ones having this conversation. You're not hearing sustainable tourism conversations happening in Indianapolis and Cleveland and LA and, you know, communities who aren't really surrounded by these fragile lands. So it's really, I think, an issue related to infrastructure, related to traffic. You know, usually traffic is part of that conversation of how much is too much. And it's basically coming down to, I think, our residents' concerns about losing their sense of connection to their place and feeling outnumbered. And that's easier to articulate when you're in a smaller community like Park City.
Yeah, thanks, Jennifer. I think you're really getting into you know, some of the key things that we wanted to bring out through this conversation, and I want to dovetail off that a little bit. I am seeing some questions in the chat, so I do want to address those just as they come up, and I'll get to my question in a bit. So Silver Queen is asking if, and I'm not sure if you guys have these stats handy, and so if you don't, we can absolutely get back to Peg and inform her. But I'm wondering, either this is probably towards targeted to Vicki and Jennifer, if you guys have the percentages of the Utah State tourism budget, what percentage goes to ski industry and what percentage goes to cultural tourism. And then it looks like they're asking for a similar stat coming from Park City, Summit County. Do you guys have those handy? If not, or even, you know, is that something you can provide today or another time?
I can start that, Vicki, while you're maybe gathering some info. That's a really difficult question to answer because we don't divide our budget that way. You know, our budget is really divided on need periods. So we focus on time to attract visitation when we need business. Summer and winter seasons are our need periods. It's where we focus on. Our average occupancy in both of those seasons is about 50%. So there's a lot of room to grow in those areas. And then as we're developing programs and content for those seasons, we're incorporating all of the things that we're proud of to promote in Park City, not just the arts, but outdoor recreation and our cultural heritage and our mining history. And so it's more, we break it down more by seasons, and then we promote everything that Park City has to offer during those times. Arts and culture is absolutely an important pillar of that.
Well, and something we're noticing, and we've brought it up, I think we had it as a question, you know, even the way that we collect data, a lot of times recreation and cultural activities are kind of lumped together as we kind of do data analysis of especially economic impact. So anyways, it's interesting to see. But then again, there's a lot of intersections between recreation and arts and culture as our local culture, specifically in Park City and Summit County, because, you know, someone might be a recreator or this amazing mountain biker, and they mountain bike to a Deer Valley concert. And so, you know, we are a dynamic community that lives here, I think, both for a sense of place that includes pillars of, you know, amazing natural surroundings and arts and cultural experiences at that, you know, and recreation being tied to all of that. So anyways, I understand that, Jennifer, and I'm happy to say that the Arts Council, we are investing some of our resources to do the AEP, or the Arts and Economic Prosperity 6 study with Americans for the Arts. Randy's shaking his head. It's going to be an enormous survey and a data analysis about that will focus on Park City and Summit County. We're doing this with the state. So we're going to have, and this study, what, Randy, only comes up maybe every 5 years. It's a huge effort that our state agency, Americans for the Arts, puts on. And so we're really excited to engage in this effort. It's going to be a lot of work, but I think it'll be well worth it. And that might help us define some of these questions that are data driven that Peg is asking about. So anyways.
Well, and let me chime in on that, Jocelyn, because I think that's a really good point. You know, I think looking at visitors or even residents as just siloed as only being interested in the arts is too simplistic of a way to really think about how multidimensional we are as human beings. Mm-hmm. You know, just promoting the arts doesn't mean that someone's going to come here and go to the museum. They're also going to eat fine wine, eat at fine restaurants and enjoy our fine wines and our distilleries and our breweries. You know, so we have to really look at it holistically. I understand where that question comes from, because as an organization that has 950 partners, everybody wants their sector to be the one that we're focusing on. And it's always this push and pull, like, are you focusing too much on outdoor recreation and not enough about the arts? Or are you focusing too much on historic Main Street and not enough about, the other areas of the county? And the reality is that we have to do it all, and we have to tell that story all, and comprehensively and holistically.
Yeah.
And sometimes people won't feel like we're doing enough in a particular area. And then, that's where you need to push us, say you need to do more. And, that's what we need.
Well, and that's
I'd love to echo that. Echo that comment as well. When we travel, we're looking for, nobody, even my museum friends, can't do 5 museums in a day. Want to, it might be sports, hiking, outdoors, culinary, art making. So travelers typically are looking for, more of a comprehensive, authentic cultural experience. What do people, what is there to do in the region? And obviously there's so much to do there. The arts, however, and and so, but that cultural product requires investment, and that's why so many cities across the country use a portion of those hotel tax dollars to invest in the arts. Because we got to invest in the product that's putting the heads in the beds, and so that's the community is getting those cultural benefits, but also needs that investment to get those economic benefits. I was going to add one other aspect of it as well, because we think of it as tourism business, but if we think of like business more more globally, we're moving to this knowledge economy and everything, and tourism obviously so much of an experience economy as well, but workers these days are going to they're going to the places they want to live. Workers, it's like place first. When I came up, man, I went to whoever would have me. Yeah, I'll move across to wherever for that job. And then businesses these days go to where the workforce is. And so that's sort of another we think sustainable, and I love some of the different words we heard today about responsible and perpetual growth and everything, and integration and inclusion, all of those kinds of words. But that's what makes the community part of it, and people will come and move to a community for the same reason tourists come to a community, and businesses then follow the workforce these days. Boy, especially during the pandemic. I mean, we think, well, actually there were some upsides. I mean, it's horrible to think about because so many people have been families have experienced so much loss, but where people work, there's just this huge shift going on now. And American Spanish, we've already got people down in Taos, Massachusetts, I mean, moving all over the place. And it's like, wow, can I do my job for Park City? That'd be pretty awesome, So there's, I mean, we've got sort of this sustainable tourism focus, but we're really, we're thinking, community sustainability. So that's just one business way.
Yeah, thanks, Randy. And then Vicki, I know there was a state Utah question embedded in this. Peg, you really asked a loaded question here, but it's important, right? Did you have anything to add before we move on to some of these other questions?
Yes, so my answer is similar to Jennifer's in that it's very difficult to quantify components because our marketing is seasonal. Mm-hmm. And so our board has a long-standing starting point division of dollars, which is that 65% of our budget goes to three-season visitation, and the other 35% goes to winter visitation. Yeah. Even that is kind of carved in wet mud because there have been increased allocations of funds, what I would call above the line for the last number of years that have benefited our arts and cultural tourism strategies, because we created an urban marketing strategy that we've increased the funding for significantly over the last several years that goes above the line and is all season and includes Park City urban storytelling. Mm-hmm. It would be almost impossible to quantify within the seasonal components
what's cultural or what's ski industry.
Yeah,
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you look at some of the examples that I showed today, and it's really trying to accomplish what we say in the Red Emerald strategy, which is to encourage people to do lots of different things when they're in the community.
Yeah.
Maybe they came here for a ski vacation, but we want them to go buy some art and so forth.
Yeah, thank you, Vicki and Jennifer and Randy for chiming in. And so I know there's some questions coming through the chat. I think we'll get to Nan's question, and then I also see that Aldi has his hand raised, so we'll go in that order, and then we'll get to some of these other questions as we move along here. So Nan Worrell asks, what techniques have panelists found effective in other communities to inform residents about sustainable tourism and why it's important? And I'm so glad Nan brought this up. This was actually on my question list too. And And I know that sustainable tourism is multifaceted, but if there's a way also that you can approach this question, maybe not wholly, but a bit from an arts and culture lens too, I think that would be great for just the context. So anyone want to take that?
Well, maybe I'll start on that just from past experience of how we engage the local community. I think first and foremost, Nan, we really need to agree on what sustainable tourism is and have a broad definition in the community, and that starts at leadership. So, having the Global Sustainable Tourism Council come in and do this destination assessment for us is going to be that first great big step of identifying just how we define sustainable tourism as a community. The city has already done an incredible job of identifying and getting input from the community about what sustainable tourism means to them, and identifying that as a plan pillar of the visioning process. So I think the next step is really for us to come together as community leaders and nonprofit organizations to better define that, because we don't want to go out to the community each individually saying what we think sustainable tourism is without coming to a common shared vision about that. And then the city has also done a great job of garnering community input already through the visioning process. There's a lot more work that needs to be done. The assessment will help us do that. And then ultimately, I'm certain that one of the outcomes of the assessment will be the need to develop a long-term sustainable strategy. We're already planning to move forward in that process with the help of the Utah Office of Tourism and their Destination Development Grant Program with the Coraggio Group. So we'll be moving through that process to actually develop a sustainable tourism plan. We might not call it that. We might call it a destination stewardship plan or a responsible tourism plan once we get some common language at the leadership level. But an important part of that sustainable tourism planning process and the GSTC is garnering community input. So just providing a lot of opportunity to have those community conversations is going to be critical in the conversation and in the plan.
Thanks, Jennifer. Anyone else want to tackle the techniques question from Nan on, what's effective in other communities relating to sustainable tourism, or why it's important?
Yeah, I can speak briefly to that. In 2019, we launched our Red Emerald Strategic Plan in 2017, and we fully acknowledge that at that time we probably did not have enough community engagement on it. And so in 2019, we revisited and refined the plan and did statewide outreach engagement, going to 4 regions of the state and having community hearings and so forth. But this is a really good question, because I would love to see more community engagement in the planning process. And I think what all of us in public policy experience is that sometimes communities don't fully engage until they see a problem. And then they're frustrated. So I love this process that Jennifer is framing up, and I hope that people will engage from the start to help create a really great framework that,
Yeah, thanks, Vicki. Anyone else before we move on to Aldi? All good. So Aldi, I see you have your hand raised. Feel free to mute yourself if you want to. Hey there he is.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for this conversation. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. I also appreciate sort of us working from the national level. Randy's numbers, the 3.8% in Utah being quite supportive of translating tourism into cultural opportunities. I think for me, and for us as cultural providers, part of the sustainability issue is, do we have the capacity to fund our missions? Do we have the capacity to translate event income, earned income, donor income into providing excellent cultural opportunities. The question or the sort of the question, some of the things I'm thinking about is, are we representing a more holistic and deepened example of what cultural is? I see a lot of images of the outdoor industry and what we define as culture, and not a lot of experiences with art that represents the human condition. And that's something that is particularly interesting for me. The other question I have is, I feel like our reliance on the event-based economy seems fragile, especially during the last year. And I know I've had a lot of conversations with locals about what is world-class art and what is a more locally generated and dynamic everyday conversation about our relationship to art and our missions. And the last thing I think is really more of an opportunity is, as I see the ABC plan, I see a lot of goals, but not a lot of accountability markers. And I think that means that we have an opportunity to define what our goals are, what our markers are. And I know that Jocelyn and team are going to be working with the Americans of the Arts through this next year. But we have an opportunity to be the first line, in a sense, of the community that can help us define language, define goals, and define markers for success together as a group, and then have that radiate out into the community. Those are sort of some of my thoughts as I'm now listening to you all.
Yeah. Thanks so much. And I'm glad you brought up Project ABC too, because, you know, that was a community-driven and community-led plan. And so no one really had, we tried to really approach it from, no one had sole ownership. It wasn't the Arts Council doing all the work. It wasn't the Kimball Arts Center doing all the work, right? Because it was this plan that was generated from non-cultural people as well, you know, people from government leaders or business leaders, nonprofit leaders that cared about arts and culture. And I don't know, Jake, if you wanted to jump in there. I mean, we've been tracking over the years progress and who has taken ownership over certain priorities. Jake, did you have anything to mention there?
Yeah, I would just add that in that lens of this being this kind of this community-wide cultural plan that was not a strategic plan for any one organization. The goal there is that it informs the development of more metric-specific strategic plans by individual organizations. So, but I also hear this perspective of how do we then begin to think about those markers or those metrics that come through those individual priorities at the organizational level and also as a community. So I think your point about, you know, progress with working with Americans for the Arts will be a great place, and some of the other data work that we do, but also just, you know, seeing sustained investment in and increased investment in other arts and culture priorities over the last few years since Project ABC was developed, all become some of those markers that we can talk about and we can track. So yeah, I'll kind of leave it there so we have plenty of time to get through other questions, but thanks, Elton.
I think the metrics, of course, you know, where things are measurable and, you know, decisions and such can be, plans can be made against those and decisions and such, and tracking policies and those, you know, are excellent. What I've really been impressed with a lot of the conversation here, though, is the community engagement, you know, whether it's through cultural planning process or, you know, any of the number of different initiatives that have been talked about. But one thing, you know, I see every municipality, city, county, there's advisory committees, there's commissions, you know, that are part, you know, there's one for transportation, one for signage, one for roads, water, all that type of thing. Is there artist and arts organization representation on those as well? Because, you know, I guarantee you there's a $25 million conversation about something going on right there in Park City. And it's really about, you know, how do we create a more culturally vibrant community where arts and culture are just sort of infused throughout. And those are the places where a lot of the conversation, a lot of the decisions are happening. And so we, you know, as an arts community, got to make sure we're being present at those tables as well, because there's phenomenal data that underscores all of those benefits. You know, young people with an education rich in the arts are performing better academically, lower dropout rates. When the arts are part of our healthcare and healing, shorter hospital stays, fewer doctor visits, less depression, less medication. There's been ongoing research during the pandemic about the impact on mental health. You know, isolation, loneliness, you know, is skyrocketed. According to the Census Bureau, mental health issues have gone from about 11% to 40%, you know, the population here. So, and yet when people are engaged in the arts, less depression, less anxiety, that way, increased life satisfaction. So, you know, the arts have a role in a lot of these different aspects of community. And what we're really talking about, you know, how do we create a more culturally vibrant Park City, Summit County, which then, of course, just lifts all of the boats we're talking about here.
Yes, Randy. Artists at the community development table. Something we're always advocating for. I love it. Something to just kind of maybe bring us back here is, you know, we wanted to talk about what uniquely about arts and culture, what about arts and culture makes it suitable to fostering sustainable tourism specifically, and why arts and culture is such a powerful tool for this way of thinking about tourism. Do any of you have any insights about arts and culture specifically?
Step in on that if that's okay. Everyone, this is my daughter Betty. My kids are about to go out of town for a week with their dad, so they're coming to say goodbye for a second. But it really is a great way to encourage sustainable tourism. Part for a lot of reasons, but one of them is just simply taking some bodies out of our very crowded areas into less crowded areas, and having facilities that are built up to handle crowds and people as well. But I think the greatest intersection though really for our two symbiotic industries here is we need both the outdoor recreation component, we need the ski component, and we need this culture component, because it does keep these visitors here longer. It encourages them to spend more money locally, bring it into our economy locally, so it's not just our own dollars cycling around the state. We want that new money in here. And so it really is that magic intersection of extending days and extending spend that we add together, and why we so deeply value this partnership. And I want to point out in the chat to kind of the pointed questions earlier about if we're spending enough on cultural tourism, that job is really up to you all to fully utilize the resources that our wonderful partners at Office of Tourism and our county DMOs have out there for you. If you want to see more money spent on cultural tourism, apply for these dollars, and do that spend to attract cultural visitors. And so we have a lot of the responsibility on us to increase that message. And kudos to these organizations for putting those resources together for us and doing such a great job to let us be part of telling the message of why Utah is such a wonderful place.
Definitely. And I really appreciate you bringing that up, Crystal, because, you know, the Arts Council, we do, we apply for restaurant tax grant funding, right, to specifically do cultural tourism. And part of our technique in our longstanding relationship with the Chamber is really to stand on their shoulders, and we emulate all of their drive time markets. And so everything that they're putting out in Texas or any of these other areas that they're focusing on, we are kind of echoing cultural content specifically, and with targeted and marketing and advertising, but it tells only the story of cultural. And so again, this is not really work that our local community sees, but we do. I mean, I think it's important that you said this, like we do as an Arts Council take a little bit of responsibility for taking care of our cultural community, telling their stories, but also in this sustainable way, right? Thinking about our local creative businesses, off the beaten path marketing. We're doing a lot surrounding some of our North Summit and South Summit creative businesses that you know, that could really, it really helps showcase the flavor of who we are as a whole county. But I think the more that we can tell those stories, those unique stories, creative stories about who we are as a community, I think hopefully it does promote this idea of sustainable tourism, because then people are going to these small businesses and talking to people and learning about the cultural history. They're learning about maybe the delicate balance of their business. And maybe then also, if we can all define as a community what sustainable tourism is, then they're talking to the right people about, you know, how we are looking to preserve our environment here. And it's a huge part of our culture as a people who live in Summit County. So I just, that's really an approach that we are taking as an arts council. And then we're really grateful for all of the support from the chamber, from Summit County restaurant tax, and we're actually going after, for the first time this year, a Utah Office of Tourism grant to specifically focus on cultural tourism. So Peg, I'll give you some numbers if we get some grant funding, but just know that we're trying to really supplement that work as a local arts agency. So anyways, and if you go on our website, you can see under our marketing strategies, we're doing a lot of storytelling in that arena. So.
Jocelyn, I just want to, oh, sorry, go ahead, Vicki.
Go ahead.
If I can just add to that quickly, I love the way you framed that, Jocelyn, and I just want to put an exclamation point on it. If we all think of our best travel experiences, for me, it comes down to learning and understanding and feeling connected with people from a different place. Those moments where you have that inspiration of understanding and valuing something that you didn't really know about before. And when you add that with Crystal's great reminder to us that we are #1 in artistic creation in the country, you know, this is who we are. And so it's fundamental to building out our perpetual tourism economy that we welcome people into our cultural and artistic community.
Thanks, Vicki. Jake, did you have something?
I just wanted to add quickly for organizations, you know, arts and culture organizations who are represented, you know, just being mindful of some of those resources, because as I've started this, you know, relationship with Vicki and, you know, the prep work for this meeting, I've been doing cultural consulting for, I don't know, 6 years. And I'm just really now starting to learn more about these co-op grants and some of these funding opportunities. And as I've had conversations with folks inside and outside of Summit County who are affiliated with organizations, it seems like almost no, you know, there's a few, but really in the big picture, almost no arts and culture organizations are going after this funding. So when we think about that distribution, I think just to reinforce, I think some of that ownership is on us as the cultural sector to be applying for that money, right? I think it's really easy to look and say, well, all that money is going to this one sector and why not us? And a lot of times that really just comes down to who's advocating for themselves, who's coming to the table, who's asking for that funding, who's sitting down and talking with the chamber to say, you know, how can you help tell my story? How can you help represent our sector, right? So sometimes we just need to be, I don't know, a little bit more proactive in the ways that we apply for some of these resources. And a big part of why we wanted to have this conversation is just making sure that folks are aware of it. As Jocelyn said, you know, the Arts Council's applying for this for the first time, not because they didn't want it in the past, but because we're just finding out about it as an available resource, right? So the hope is that more of us know about it, the more of us can compete for these dollars and start to see that shift in our direction.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Jake. I see Madeline's hand up, so we'll go to Madeline, and then I do, Silver Queen, I do see your questions and we will address them just after Madeline. If you want to unmute yourself, Madeline, and you're welcome to also join on video, whatever your preference is.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, I'm having some trouble with my video. I haven't met a lot of you. I'm a new planner in the Summit County Planning Department. And I really appreciate the way that this has been framed, going from the national level to more and more specific. And if I could, I just wanted to bring this down to a specific project level awareness. So the Summit County Planning Department is currently exploring the idea of an arts and culture corridor running along the historic Union Pacific Rail Trail. And the purpose would be to connect Eastern Summit County and the Snyderville Basin, highlight historically significant sites and towns, serve as a hub for more local economic development, and foster one of these things that we've been talking about, these authentic experiences for locals and visitors. And so I just wanted to throw that out there and say, if you have any initial feedback, ideas, excitement, I saw some people raising the roof, that's awesome. People or organizations that we might collaborate with on this concept, that would be enormously helpful.
We're in. That sounds amazing.
Okay, great.
And you're working with Pat Putt, yes?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. We're really familiar with Pat. He's been a great supporter of the Arts Council, and so excited to have you as a new planner. Welcome, Maddie. And
Thank you.
This is super exciting. Happy to talk to you more about that. And I'm sure maybe we can tag team with Jennifer and see how we can support your work, because that sounds really, really intriguing to me personally, and definitely in alignment with things that Arts Council is looking to see.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Awesome.
Jocelyn, if I can just chime in on that too, because I think, from my experience, sustainable tourism and developing the plan that took maybe about 6 years from my past experience, it started, like, our journey to sustainable tourism started with product development. And I know it's really hard for people in the community to think about their community as a product, but ultimately when you start to think about what outdoor adventure and recreation product and amenities and experiences do we have available for locals and visitors, what arts and cultural and heritage experiences and products do we have available. And it really starts with all of you and the activations and the products that you're creating in these different sectors that then gives us the tools as the management and marketing organization to go out and tell that story, because that's what we're so good at. So we need that collaboration. We need you as the implementers and the folks who are executing on these experiences or products in our community that allows us then to go out and tell that story better.
Can I add to that quickly, Jocelyn?
Sure.
Jennifer's comments are a reminder to me that we get so immersed in what we do, sometimes we don't explain it well to people who don't do it every day. And so I would add that I believe that this destination management strategy that our office is working with Jennifer's office to implement will include some of those product development opportunities. Jennifer, you can correct me if the scope hasn't evolved that way, but it reminds me to provide you context about the way that our office thinks about it, and I think it's probably very similar to Jennifer's approach, is that if you asked me 10 years ago what we do at the Utah Office of Tourism, we would have said, we aspire to be really great marketers. And today I would say, well, yes, we have to be great marketers, and we have to be great destination management, great destination stewardship, great product development thinkers, that in order to create this sustainable perpetual tourism economy. So we're allocating more and more of our resources along the lines of what Jennifer has said, recognizing that just marketing what we have definitely won't build up the cultural tourism sector as much as I think we all aspire to do.
Thanks, Vicki.
Well, and the way that we look at that as it relates to product development, and thanks for bringing that up, Vicki, because it helps frame what product development is. And in the past, our organizations looked at the community and said, okay, this is the product that we have, and how do we market it? And now looking at it in a more strategic way of saying, this is the visitor that we want to attract. This is what they look like. This is what they spend. This is what they travel. This is what they value. And what product do we need as a community? And do we want that also lives up to our values as a community? And then how do we develop that product to attract the visitor and the resident that we want? It's a different way of really thinking about our role in the community.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Well, all great thoughts, Ed. It gets back to something that's popped up a couple of times here, and that's also the authenticity, you know, what the product, however you populate that corridor or cultural districts, you know, which can be fabulous economic revitalizers and energizers and jobs and, you know, really just for the community as well as for driving tourism. But one of the things that I think folks have gotten much more savvy about over the years, but I'll just mention anyway, is, you know, really playing it out 5 years, 10 years down the line. What if this is successful and we're bringing artists in to do their work, to, you know, build a studio, or their studio's already there. If this thing takes off, will they still be able to afford it, you know, down the road? So it gets really to the heart of the whole conversation here about sustainability and keeping, you know, things moving forward. So that's one of the things. It's so, I'm not almost, I would almost say, like, I'm not worried with this group because this conversation is so great. Everybody, it's like central, but, you know, it's amazing. You get to a lot of places, a lot of cities, everyone's like, they're thinking, you know, neon lights and dollar signs and sort of a brownfield turning into a spectacular energized zone, without really maybe, you know, playing it out 10 years, you know, what does 10 years of prosperity on this look like? And so that totally fits into the whole sustainability conversation here.
Totally. Thank you, Randy.
Yeah, I'll actually jump in there because that idea of affordability is something that Jocelyn and I had on our list, and there's actually 2 questions in the chat about it. So I think, you know, one thing that's kind of, I guess, an observation, right, is that strong tourism can absolutely lead to an increase in cost of living, right? And I'm just curious, you know, that can really negatively impact artists, those working in the creative sector, those working in the service industry. You know, we know from the state of the arts data report that we do in Summit County that not only is Summit County's cost of living higher, we actually pay our creative workers less than the national average here. So we already kind of have a disparity there. And there are quite a few questions, one from Mayor Andy, I think one from Silver Queen, and then you just brought it up, Randy, about this kind of issue, this potential issue of affordability, and how do we not only retain great, you know, artist talent, but also, you know, potentially recruit more of that and enable that our community is affordable through that process. So I'm just curious if any of you have kind of seen models around that, or you know, folks working in that space, and how do you think about, you know, as we attract this increased economic sustainability through arts and culture, specifically tourism related, then how do we also kind of preserve space for that authentic culture to still have a hold and thrive and all of those great things, right?
I'm not familiar with the actual geography space in question, but you know, in many places, you've got vacant buildings. You know, it's costing the city more to do police patrols than they're, you know, getting in property tax revenue or anything like that. And so they've basically given the space to an artist to say, you know what, you stay here, make this, you know, live here, create here, and after 5 years, we'll give you the deed. Or you see artist live workspaces being developed. A lot of old, you know, like Pawtucket, and, you know, so those communities that have those old warehouses, manufacturing, you know, over the years, and change the ordinances to say, okay, these can be artist live workspaces. And, you know, it's been very effective in pulling artists out of the big cities who are like paying a fortune for rent and studio space, now to have a wide open space with a lot of light. And, you know, they've still got access, especially with technology, to, you know, the marketplaces. So there's those kinds of incentives. If it's moving, you know, designers or architects, creative economy businesses, Sometimes, there's incentives, tax benefits, tips. I mean, all kinds of those benefits as well. So incenting folks, there's a lot of good examples out there. And then again, how do you prevent the Soho effect where, the artists, the first ones in the trenches, turn the place around. All of a sudden it's like, I got to find another trench. I can't afford this anymore.
Yeah.
So we're getting close to 11. Is there anyone else who wants to take just a kind of quick stab at that question? If not, we can kind of close. But I want to, we have a couple more minutes for any final thoughts.
Well, I'll just say this is the greatest opportunity for innovation in Utah. I mean, people all along the continuum are finding they can't find a place to live right now, and so we need innovation. And
we have a lot of interesting things in the chat too. And Silver Cream, we appreciate all of your insights too, and she's bringing up how you guys have shifted in a lot of how your strategy and your planning, going from location and marketing to like maybe infrastructure or product. I think that's a really important observation, and I think you're exactly right, Vicki, that this is maybe a time that we can't do things the way we've always done them, and it's opportunity for innovation right now, and we understand that there's a ton of value in retaining our creative workforce that lives here, because they contribute so much to our local identity and help kind of, and I think this is where this whole conversation is kind of getting wrapped in an envelope, right? Where if we're going to continue to think about tourism sustainably, and specifically from this lens of community building, cultural tourism plays a big part in that, and the people that contribute to that are important, right? And so I don't know, I appreciate that insight, Vicki, that, innovation, it's, especially after we've had this weird year of pause, right? And a lot of us, while it was really hard, and we probably all wrote, especially in the cultural sector, probably 10 more grants than we're used to, if not more. A lot of us got to assess what we're doing and how we're producing services as cultural organizations. And now, we're seeing new opportunities, investment from, national level, state level. So we hope that support continues from all of you as we continue to make sure that we're keeping the magic of what our community is, and specifically culturally. So anyways, any last thoughts? We're at 10:58. We were planning on leaving at 11. Jake and I will stick around for those. Again, the magic of this normally, what these community communities, when we do them in person, is the kind of networking and idea sharing afterwards. Everyone's all jazzed and inspired. It's a Friday morning launching into the weekend. And so if you guys want to stay on, we're happy to stay and talk through some of these ideas. But any final thoughts from our panelists before you may have to leave us, because I know you're all very busy.
Thank you for having me. And this is just such a great example of these series of meetings and how you're engaging the community. And you guys are a rock star Arts Council, so thanks. You make us all look great.
Oh, thanks, Randy.
Justin, do you want to take just a second before we hop off in a minute to do a shameless plug for the kind of cultural tourism assets that live on the Arts Council's website that people can check out? Just maybe point people to those quickly.
Yeah, definitely. If people are willing to stick around, I know I had kind of teased it a little bit in talking about how the Arts Council we're trying to approach our tourism storytelling, cultural tourism specifically, from this lens of sustainability, and really telling the stories of our community members who make our community great. And so an example of a campaign that we've developed is something called an Insider's Insights. This is based on trends of, influencer marketing becoming much more, people who relate to another person, they're much more apt to listen to their recommendations, right? So if they see like, oh, hey, cool, Casey's this mixologist, I love them, they might be more interested in how he talks about cultural tourism. Casey's an amazing contributor to our local culture and sense of place. And so it's kind of this insider scoop of what he likes to do based on culture, his favorite restaurants, his favorite music and concerts that he is able to go hear. Some of his, most sought after East Side cultural experiences. So we're melding off the beaten track marketing, digital editorial that focuses on storytelling from the perspective of a local who is, really contributes to who we are. Here, we are about to launch a series of videos that where many of these people are featured. And again, it takes them through, a whole art adventure in a day. And we always make sure that we highlight places in not only Park City, but throughout Sinerville Basin, as well as North and South Summit. So this is just an example. We have these Q&As. We were really happy to see that the chamber was sharing some of these stories on their social media. We also have art adventure guides. Again, a lot of this is some of our community doesn't see because we push it out with restaurant tax grant advertising dollars. But we have videos that tell an adventure focusing on the sector of craft or the restaurant culinary sector, visual art, our performing arts sector, and history, which is really how we frame all of the cultural assets here in Summit County. So that's just a sneak peek. If you're interested, go to pcscarts.org. But those are all funded by restaurant tax grant dollars, so we're super appreciative to their support in Summit County. And then we're also looking to continue to fuel these campaigns and build the assets, maybe through a Utah Office of Tourism grant. So anyways, that's kind of where we're headed, and it's been really fun, and we get to know the community really well through these projects. So that's what we've been doing. And great, thanks Jake for putting that on. So again, we're a little over time. We're gonna stick around. If you want to stick around, we'll be here to continue the conversation. We'll probably be on for another 10 minutes, but otherwise, if you need to hop off, we understand, and we hope you have a great Friday, and thank you so much for joining us for this really important conversation. And
thank you, Jocelyn.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.